As I look back, I've been fortunate to spend over 35 years in the agriculture and food and related science industries. And one thing that's become remarkably clear is that global food security is a complex issue that's going to require one common element for every solution, and that is innovation. We need innovation on a lot of fronts, certainly science and technology, but we also need it in government, in finance, in health, in farming, in economic development, in order to really tackle this challenge successfully. And we need food manufacturers and specialty food ingredients companies that can help with the nutrition side to play their critical role in being able to provide nutritious and high-quality food. Recently, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Mrs. Millicent Wanja Moria, a smallholder farmer from Meru County, Kenya. She likes to be called Wanja. It pays a tribute to her mother, and it always makes her smile. And her transparent interpretation of life in Kenya as a widowed farmer was inspiring. And her efforts to manage her 9-hectare farm while raising 6 children remain in my mind. After her husband died, Wanja, like many Kenyan women, was nearly disinherited from the land, and she had to fight in court for many years for the right to keep it. After she was denied the 1,000 shillings of financial assistance to be able to reestablish the farm, Wanja swore that she would never beg or borrow again. Instead, she dedicated her effort to caring for her 6 children, all, by the way, who graduated from college, and putting her work ethic and her agricultural knowledge to work and to test every day by transforming her land by hand. 3 things that Wanja is extremely passionate about: family, education, and sustainable farming. She's a leader within her community. Millicent, or Wanja, is sought after by area farmers for the tremendous insights that she's gained through several decades of farming in Kenya. And today, as we celebrate the International Day of Rural Women, I can clearly hear Wanja's voice telling me it will be crucial for us as a society to help unlock the potential of women to do better farming that generates income for their family. This, she believes, will provide continual impact. And I want to take a moment to let you hear directly from Wanja as she shares her perspectives on being a female farmer in Kenya.
I'm Millicent Wanja Moria from Kenya. I'm a pioneer farmer. I come from Meru County in Kenya. I'm happy to be a pioneer farmer because pioneer maize hybrids have given me very good yields and have revolutionized my life. Sustainable agriculture in Kenya varies from farmer to farmer and also from region to region. Some farmers try to attain sustainable agriculture as they do their farming practices, such as conserving the environment by making sure that they have terraces in their farms. They practice mixed cropping. They do contour tillage and also add manures into the soil. They try to use the technologies that save on labor and also technologies that are cost effective, like the use of oxen plowing. To improve food security among the small-scale farmers, there are so many policies that should be put in place. One of the policies would be like water harvesting. And when I talk about water harvesting, I mean a policy that would encourage farmers to have one farmer, one farm, one water pan, so that with the increasing incidences of drought in Kenya, at least when we experience shortages of rain, we can irrigate a bit and at least realize some crop instead of losing everything. The other one would be like access of credit. Farm inputs are very expensive, and you can't do farming without money. Farming today is capital intensive, so it is good if we could access credit, and the credit should be farmer friendly. Markets are in a terrible state. You don't exactly know where to access seeds. You don't know where to sell your produce, when to sell. Marketing is a big issue. So marketing infrastructure and and information is very crucial, is very key in attaining food security. We need some simple technologies to be developed that are friendly to small-scale farmers. For example, small machines that can help us in planting maize, and also harvesting, because labor cost is so high. And when we use manual labor to harvest, to plant, we don't, we break even sometimes we make losses. As a woman farmer and a small-scale farmer, there are certain innovations that can make my life much easier and at the same time improve my productivity. For example, if I had a small knapsack sprayer, which carries less than 20 liters of water, I can comfortably spray my crops, my weeds, without feeling very tired. If I got a water tank in my compound that can harvest water from my roof, that is roof catchment, that water can help me do my farming properly without going to the river, even to fetch water for spraying. And also that water can help me even in my domestic uses. So those are kind of small things that would make my life much easier as a woman farmer.
So as we think about how to confront global food security, we need to remember farmers like Wanja, and particularly the local challenges that they face. And at DuPont, we've been immersed in food security and nutrition challenges for some time, and we've come to realize an important but simple concept. You can't solve a problem until you can measure it. And so in 2012, we teamed up with the Economist Intelligence Unit to develop the Global Food Security Index to measure a complex set of issues and vulnerabilities in 109 countries around the world across 28 indicators that together define food security. This index is the first to comprehensively measure across three dimensions that are globally accepted around food security: availability, affordability, and quality and safety. And since the launch of the Food Security Index in 2012, we've continued our collaboration with the EIU to facilitate discussions in countries around the world, all focused on how can we collectively pool our resources and make better decisions and take better action. And armed with a common language to discuss the root causes of hunger, governments and public and private sector entities can work together to make better informed decisions that we think will be able to drive more sustainable results, again, at a local level. Governments have reached out to learn more about country-level data to better understand food security in their situation to help them prioritize their efforts. NGOs like the Aspen Institute are using the index to determine which countries to focus their efforts on to advocate for food security policy improvements. And they've started also to explore the relationship between women's reproductive health and food security by using the index framework along with other information that they've gathered. And private sector companies are using the index as a launching pad to explore food consumption. At DuPont, we're using the interactive tool to guide where and how we innovate in new technologies and processes and approaches that are all going to be needed to pave the way for sustainable food security solutions. This summer, the Economist Intelligence Unit released the 2015 Global Food Security Index. It showed that food security had actually increased across most of the major regions of the world over the past year, but clearly challenges still persist. And the index points out that innovation is a key component to the solutions that are radically going to improve food security. Without it, we will not be able to sustainably feed the 9 to 10 billion people we expect. And from investing in the advancement of biotechnology or confronting malnutrition through biofortification, or investing in small family farm productivity or digital soil maps or portable soil testing kits or post-harvest grain storage, agricultural innovation is actually ramping up on every front to help address this global challenge. But we need to remember that we need to produce more food in the next 40 years than we have produced in the last 10,000 years. Right now, we're already living beyond our means. We currently consume about 50% more natural resources than the Earth's ecosystems can replenish. This infographic from the World Wildlife Fund depicts graphically the demand placed on our planet in recent years and the demand that's projected for the future. Between 1961 and 2003, the impact of human activity on the planet's ecosystems increased by 150%. If the current trend continues, by 2050, we'll need a second planet. A second planet in order to be able to meet our demands for energy and water and food and shelter, as well as to absorb our waste. And burgeoning population is often gets the bulk of the attention when we talk about food security discussions, but there are really 5 trends that I think we need to keep in the front of our minds as we think about improving access to safe, affordable, nutritious food within the confines of the one planet that we have. Those are rapid urbanization, rising incomes and changing diets, low agricultural and food productivity, and particularly among smallholder farmers, environmental changes, and food waste. And in the interest of time, I'm going to focus primarily on 3 items that I think if we keep them prioritized in our agendas, we will be able to turn the tide on global food security. And those are rapid urbanization, agricultural productivity of smallholder farmers, and food waste. So first, rapid urbanization. We're living in the midst of the largest wave of urban growth in history. In the middle of 2009, the number of people living in urban areas surpassed the number living in rural areas. And for the first time in history, that occurred. And since 2009, that trend of urbanization has continued. The roughly 3.5 billion people living in cities today will, by 2030, the next 15 years, that 3.5 billion will swell to about 5 billion, and by 2050, it'll be over 7 billion. And I should point out that 90% of this urbanization is happening in Africa and Asia, bringing huge social, economic, and environmental transformations, and it's going to further pressure water supplies and land availability. It'll require longer shelf lives for food that need to travel farther and last longer than it did before. And it's also going to mean that more people will be leaving the farm, going to urban areas with the perception of better career opportunities. And while population shifts toward urban centers, we can't turn our backs on farming and rural agriculture. We can't forget about the Wanjas of the world who are working tirelessly every day to produce enough yields, enough for her family, and enough perhaps to take some to the market. We'll need to explore a range of solutions from food transportation infrastructure to urban agriculture to cultivating the next generation of leaders inside and outside of food and agriculture who will advance food security in urban and rural environments. And I propose a core focus needs to be on the next generation of leaders who will take on the mantle of responsibility for ensuring we have a sustainable food supply. We'll need farmers and scientists and researchers and agribusiness leaders, as well as careers that many times people don't associate with food security. We'll need teachers and lawyers, and policy experts, marketers, and engineers, just to name a few. The key is we need to assure that we have the best minds and the brightest thinkers of the next generation fully engaged in addressing food security locally, from science and technology to transportation and logistics to government and regulatory policy. We need innovators, like many of you in the room, working together to be able to address local challenges that result in hunger. One of our 2020 food security goals at DuPont centers around this tremendous need to cultivate the next generation of leaders. We set out in 2012 to facilitate at least 2 million engagements with young people around science, around agriculture, around food, as well as the impact that that can have on a growing population. I'm happy to say that since 2012, we've already exceeded our goal, and that's 6 years early, but clearly we won't stop there. Second, low food and agricultural productivity of smallholder farmers is clearly a prime opportunity for advancing food and nutrition security. Farmers like Wanja from Kenya are hungry for improved plant genetics, for agronomic practices, for mechanization that's scaled for their operations. And farmers are the backbone of our food and agricultural systems. Therefore, delivering innovations that can help them is the key to really realizing a food-secure future. Technology will be critical as we consider increasing yields and food production worldwide under the constraints of limited arable land and shrinking natural resources and changing climatic patterns. In developing countries, smallholder farmers provide up to 80% of the food supply, but they need to experience a productivity revolution to break out of the cycle of poverty and subsistence that is so prevalent. And what alarms many people is that of the 805 million chronically malnourished people in the world, about half are farmers and their families. Farmers feeding themselves is going to be critical to farmers feeding the world. As part of our food security goals, we committed to helping improve the livelihoods of at least 3 million smallholder farmers in their rural communities around the world. And so far, we've engaged about 750,000 farmers through targeted collaborations and investments, not doing the normal business, but special things that we're trying to do to make a difference, all aimed at trying to strengthen agricultural systems and make food more available, more nutritious, and obviously culturally appropriate. I often hear the saying, farmers feed the world, but we should not expect farmers to do that alone. Governments, NGOs, and private sector can work together, and we can achieve much more if we find ways to collaborate as we work to strengthen smallholder farmers in developing countries as a key prerequisite to effectively advancing food and nutrition security. Farmers need access to improved agronomic practices, extension services, post-harvest storage, and quality inputs, many of the things that you heard Wanja outline a few minutes ago, that help their operations be more productive and profitable in the midst of some pretty significant and escalating challenges that they face. In the U.S., growers have the infrastructure and the support to use high-tech precision data tools that can give them whole farm solutions. But in other places like Ethiopia, smallholder maize farmers are challenged by traditionally low-yielding varieties of seed that substantially impacts their productivity opportunity. In agriculture, innovation needs to be applied based on the local context to help farmers wherever they are move forward from where they are today and to address the specific and local challenges that they face. Climate change is clearly an issue affecting farmers around the world in a variety of ways. It's impacting growing conditions and weather patterns globally, and that also can fundamentally alter food production systems in a local context. And if climate change trajectories continue, farmers will continue to face even more drought, excessive heat, flooding, soil quality issues, etc., that have challenged them to produce enough food for a growing and changing population. During my time with Wanja, she shared her sustainability practices, including a crop rotation, specifically geared to restore the nutrients that maize takes out of her soil. And she's rearing cattle to be able to apply the manure back to the farm as a fertilizer. She also spoke of her deliberate choice of hybrids that could help withstand drought and water-stressed conditions. Many of us have read the research publications which report on the high value of high-quality seeds to farmers, but there's nothing that compares to having a conversation with somebody who has directly experienced the significant impact that something as small as a single seed can have. As part of our food security goal focused on product innovation, we're continuing to develop new seed varieties that help farmers overcome challenges like drought and infertile soils, as well as to provide needed micronutrients. And our commitment from 2012 to 2020 is to invest at least $10 billion in research and development and to develop and launch at least 4,000 products that center on developing innovations that produce more food, that help enhance nutritional value, that help to improve agricultural sustainability, that boost yields, that extend shelf lives, and all of that is aimed collectively to have some positive impact toward this big challenge that we face. So far, we've invested over $3 billion toward that effort. We've launched over 2,300 products, so we're a little more than halfway toward our goal so far, and we're certainly not stopping. My third point is that while we promote agricultural productivity, we really must reduce waste. Each year, more than a third of the food that's produced for human consumption is thrown away. Along with that, the labor and the inputs that went into producing it is also wasted. And food that's produced and never eaten would be enough to feed 2 billion people. This food waste represents a significant missed opportunity to improve food security. In a developing world, envision piles of grain following the harvest where there aren't modern silos to be able to store it, and where transport systems are often slow and somewhat inefficient, somewhat mismanaged from time to time. In the developed world, waste occurs not primarily from the farm to the market, but from the market to final consumption. It's the portion at a restaurant that we don't consume and is thrown away, or it's the packaged food that goes past its sell-by date and needs to be thrown away. Or it's the food in the back of our refrigerators that we finally come to and realize we never managed to consume. Now, we'll probably never be able to completely eliminate food waste, but if we can find ways to reduce it significantly, we can go a long ways toward making a real difference to sustainable food security. We need increased investment in infrastructure around getting food stored and then from the storage to the market and to the table. It's essential we bring together individuals and organizations that have the expertise and the resources and the passion to protect food and increase its safety and extend its shelf life. And these collaborations will transform scientific innovation into new ways to protect food and reduce waste. One area for continued focus is packaging. Packaging offers tremendous opportunities to mitigate food loss by protecting food and extending its perishable shelf life. But sometimes consumer protections about packaging keep those innovations at bay. So focusing on the positive contributions that packaging can make will go a long ways toward making a dent in this global issue. In closing, overcoming the threats to our global food supply requires taking scientific innovation well beyond the lab, and it means taking innovation to the fields and to the local communities, especially in developing economies such as sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia, where the majority of chronically malnourished people live. And while innovation needs to be scaled and customized for local context, I'm convinced that it must be part of any proposed solution to the global food security challenge. And to generate the greatest impact, innovative approaches need to be local, bringing information and technology to the people and places who need it most, built in collaboration with local communities, and sustainable in the truest sense of the word, economically and socially, as well as environmentally. And we need to be committed to new ways of thinking, being collaborative and focusing on what's important. You know, global hunger is bigger than our politics. It's more important than proving who has the best production method. Lives are at stake. Our children's and our children's children's futures are at stake. So I challenge you to ask yourself some tough questions today. How is your expertise going to help ensure that everybody in the world has enough food to eat? If you're in government, what policies are you implementing that will support the tie between agricultural development and economic vitality? If you're a scientist or an engineer or a developer, what innovation will you create that can make a positive difference in the food security challenge, and particularly to smallholder farmers? And how can we all work together collectively and invite others to join us? After asking ourselves some of those questions at DuPont, we decided to establish some tangible food security goals that could help us hold ourselves accountable and that we could track progress. And as many of you might gather, I was strongly impacted by my time with Wanja and the many other smallholder farmers I've had the chance to meet. So I want to leave you with something that I heard Wanja say. In so many words, she said, it's always the same people attending the same meetings, having the same conversations. There's a lot of talking, but none of the discussions result in tangible solutions that make it into the hands of farmers like me. I don't think that's the case here today. And based on this week's discussion, I'm optimistic that each of us will leave motivated and mobilized to deliver the needed innovations in food nutrition security that'll reach farmers like Wanja in Meru County, Kenya, or the future scientist in India, or the little boy suffering from malnutrition in Vietnam. But it's up to each of us to make sure that it happens. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you for everything that you're doing to help the world achieve food and nutrition security. It's important work. Thank you.